I just got to see Arcadian here at South by Southwest, and I knew nothing about this movie going in, but wow, did I walk out of this theater happy.
Are we not men?
It stars Nick Cage, Jada Martell, and Maxwell Jenkins, and to sum it up, this movie feels like A Quiet Place meets Nope meets The Last of Us. And that sounds crazy, but this movie is so simple, yet elevates the ideas from these projects here by basing it in the study of brotherhood and fatherhood. Like I said before, very surprised by this film and very excited to talk about it. I think this is going to be a very big hit amongst horror, thriller, / survival fans. And before I get into it, let me know what you guys thought of Arcadian in the comments down below. But without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. I want to get right into the nitty-gritty of this movie by talking about the visual style of the horrors in this film, more specifically the monsters. This is where we kind of get into that A Quiet Place comparison here. Very, very similar to the monsters in that movie, just on a regular design level in regards to obviously the physical aspect of how they kind of move around, but also the sound design aspect, which I thought was very, very interesting. But in general, I think the monster design of this film is just so cool. But honestly, I find the idea of just having a monster that looks like something I've generally seen before, like crawling on 4 legs, long face. I get that it is a little bit basic, but I think small elements transform the entirety of this monster-like character. First of all, the CGI is amazing. I'm gonna get into the cast and the crew later in this video, but they have a big VFX background, and I think that came into play heavily with this film because it looks absolutely amazing. But on top of that, I think there's just a lot of good practicality to this monster. There's a few sequences where it's practical blended with CGI, but also full sequences where it's a fully practical part of a monster, and you can truly see that, and that truly brings a riveting nature to the sequence itself. You can definitely tell where it's practical and where it's CGI in good and bad ways, and I think one of the best ways you can tell it's in CGI is when the monster goes absolutely berserk. The monster has this concept where basically when it's kind of ready to charge, it absolutely speeds up its mouth. Like it's going at Mach 7 trillion, and it is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my entire life because it's just running at you like this. It's so cool. And on top of that, the way that the monsters in this film kind of transport is in this circle-like combobulation of multiple monstrous creatures. It's so sick. The monsters have a good level of practicality, like I said, but it's also very gory in a pretty good way. I think the monsters have a level of blood and gore to it that make it feel a lot more realistic. And I'm gonna get into like the horror survival elements of this film in just a second here, but I do want to talk about what I slightly mentioned before, is the cast and crew behind this film. Obviously, Nicolas Cage is super cool. We got to actually see him at the premiere of this film here at South by Southwest. He's awesome, very passionate about this film. Jada Martell, this is the second film I've actually seen from him at South by Southwest, and he yet again proves that he's a great and amazing young actor in Hollywood that honestly picks fairly versatile projects. This is the first project I've seen Maxwell Jenkins in, and he's really well paired with Jada Martell and Nick Cage here. I think the brotherhood as well as fatherhood relationships here are all very, very believable. But where the cast and crew aspect of this movie really flourishes, in my opinion, is with the director Benjamin Brewer. He was actually one of the few VFX artists working on Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was a fairly small budget film for how ballsy and creative it really got. And in my opinion, you really see how someone that worked on that movie could take their talents over to a weird, futuristic, dystopian, The Last of Us-esque zombie world that's barren but also a little bit sci-fi mixed into it type of movie with weird-ass creatures and monsters in it. Like, this is his forte, and at the Q&A post-movie screening, he talked about how he used Blender, which is a completely free software, to make a lot of the monster sequences in this film. And that just goes to show that if you have the right amount of talent, any equipment will do, and Benjamin Brewer, I think, was the perfect director for this film. And I think that kind of small budget aspect leads into why this film looks so beautiful. I'm pretty sure they shot this in Ireland. It was pretty isolated isolated with just the cast and the crew, and I think that's what makes this movie so cool. Again, it's a very limited cast, not trillions of extras and crowd work going on. It's an isolated story, and that's why I think this movie excels so much, and that's why I bring the comparison back to A Quiet Place, Nope, and The Last of Us. I think it fits in different regards for all of these films. I already mentioned A Quiet Place with the monster design. I think it really feels like Nope in the sense of it just gets really high level in terms of where the origin of these creatures is coming from. But most interestingly, I related it to The Last of Us because of the score, you know, the sound design. I think it's all very unique to something like The Last of Us. But I think it mixes the survival of world building like something we've only really seen in The Last of Us. Because I feel like dystopian and futuristic, but also like kind of barren worlds are pretty easy to make just set-wise, but to make it feel like its own unique thing and like not all of it takes place in the same world as all these other dystopian futuristic shows we've ever seen is a feat in and of itself, and this movie does just that. Again, like I said before, it's just a classic horror survival film mixed with familial aspects, which we do get in A Quiet Place, but it's definitely more of a broader family theme that kind of leads into the entirety of the world because it gets so big. But this movie gets so isolated and it works in that regard, and I think that's why this movie surprised me so much. Obviously, great filmmakers behind it, a great cast, and it just feels like it was made for so much money while still being made for so little. Overall, Arcadian surprised the hell out of me. I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. I really hope a lot of people check this out because I think this is an absolutely awesome movie. Again, let me know what you guys thought of Arcadian in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.